In this theme 5, we will consider functions, and we will start by looking at the domain and the range of functions. Functions we normally can denote by, for instance, y equal to f of x, where this f is just a symbol that describes what the function will do with the x. So, for instance, if f is a vending machine selling soft drinks, then the x will be the money you put in and the y will be the soft drinks that comes out. We normally use y equal to f of x in maths, but in real life we use, for instance, d equal to g of t, where t is time and d can be the distance and g is a function of time. There are many more variables that we can use. This is just typical, the y equal to f, what we use in maths. So let us see what is a function. A function is defined as a relation between a set of inputs having one output each. So for each x value, we will have one y value, or for each t value, we will have one d value. In other words, a relationship between an independent variable, which is the input, and it's represented on the horizontal axis, and a dependent variable, the output, which is represented on the vertical axis, with that specification that each input only have one output. For each function, we consider the domain of the function, and for the domain we are interested in all the values that the independent variables that can be used to calculate the dependent variable. If you look, for instance, at the function y equal to x squared, when can you calculate y equal to x squared? For which values can you calculate y equal to x squared? Well, you can put any x in that equation, and for instance 1, and you square it and you get 1, or a half and you square it, you get a quarter. So it is any real numbers, but the answers will be in a specific way. First of all, we see for the x squared, it will result, we cannot have negative values, but that is not part of the domain. So let us look, for instance, at y equal to square root of x. What values of x can I put in the square root? I can, for instance, not put in -1 because that's not a real number. But I can put anything greater or equal to 0, I can put into square root and I will have a result. Some of them will be decimals, but it doesn't matter, I can still calculate it. So then, what is the range? The range, here we are interested in all the values that results from the independent variables. For instance, if I put here x 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, they will all be part of the range. And in this case, the square root of x, everything I put in, I know the answers will also be greater or equal to 0. So the range results from the calculated dependent variables. We also have a codomain, and the codomain are just a set of all possible values which can come out as a result. But the range is that specific set of value which actually comes out. So the range, so if I have a codomain there, then the range are most often just inside the codomain. So let us look at some examples. If I look at y equal to 2x, and x can be any real number and y can be all the multiples of 2. First of all, let us put a restriction on the x values here. For instance, if x is greater or equal to 1 or less than or equal to 3, and x is a natural number, then my domain will be restricted to only 3 numbers, 1, 2, and 3, because they are natural numbers, so we cannot have 1.5, 1.1, 2.7, etc. The range will be the results of, if I put the x in here, I will get 2 times 1, which is 2, 2 times 2, which is 4, and 2 times 3, which is 6, and that is all. But the codomain are all the natural numbers. So here I have all the natural numbers, but I'm only going to use 1, 2, and 3 for the domain, and the range will only be 2, 4, and 6. So if I look at another example, I keep the function the same, y equal to 2x. I keep the restrictions the same, but only change x is an element of R. Now, the x's here can be 1.1, 1.03, 2.1, 2.7, 2.5, 2.99, etc. So everything in between 1 and 3, 1 and 3 included, and that we indicate as an interval with square brackets, and we've dealt with that in theme 1 where we did set notation. So the smallest value is 1 and the largest value is 3, and we use the square brackets because those values are included. It's equal signs there. So the range will be the set of the smallest value is 2, the largest number is 6, so it's the whole range. So in this case, if I look at the real number system and I take 1, the range, then 2 to 6, it will be everything in between here. From there to there, that's the range. In this case, it will be 3 dots, 2, 4, 6 on the 2, 4, 6 on the number line. Okay. Again, the codomain is much bigger. It's a set of all real numbers. So in this case, we just introduce now what is a function, what's a domain, what's a codomain, what is a range, what are restrictions, when do we use curly brackets, when do we use intervals. So let us look at some examples.